All right, hello everybody. Welcome to another day in text week. It was text function week. Now I'm just saying text week. So I was thinking what to do today, and one of the things I was probably not going to do because I felt like it might just be a bit too advanced was go really deep into lots of the different dynamic array functions. Take, drop, hstack, vstack, to col, to row, all of this stuff, wrap cols, wrap rows. Partly because, well, in all honesty, partly because I didn't have the workbook ready with all of those worksheets, which takes a huge amount of time. But also, it just feels like such a deep topic to open up for, for me, what was going to be a fundamentals week. However, I've had a couple of people message me and ask if I can do something on it. So I am, but I'm actually I'm gonna make life hard for you a little bit if you've not seen these before. And I'm gonna show you an example of me using quite a lot of these dynamic array functions to do something quite random, but still do something. And I'm not going to spoon feed it to you. So I'll talk through a little bit what I'm doing with each of the functions and what they're doing. But if you've never used take, drop, wrap cols, wrap rows, then as you're watching this, just Google it. Go and look at ExcelJet as you're going through this. And I think that's perfectly fine to kind of get up to speed as we go through. I will do my best to explain what these functions are doing, but I think this is a really nice little challenge to close the week off with on a Friday. And by the way, it's not my challenge. I didn't come up with this. This was something that the legendary Victor Momoh came up with probably 18 months ago when I interviewed him. Victor has come in to train, do some live training for the full stack modeler community on a few occasions, and he blows my mind every time when he picks up a topic and just goes like 10 steps further than I've seen anyone else do on it before. He did this with hyperlinks once, and everybody's mind was just blown. So, all right, so here's the challenge. And I'll share this workbook in the same folder that the other functions workbook was saved in, so the same link. Really random challenge, okay? But it gives us the opportunity to use these functions. Essentially, this is a list of names at a company. And this company decides they're going to run a fun challenge for a group of people that want to take part from the company. The only limitation is that they can only have 4 teams take part, and you can only have 3 people on a team. And it's going to be picked, the people are going to be picked on a essentially like a lottery basis. So there's no first come, first served. It's literally you get your name in the hat by filling in this form, and at the end of a period of time, everybody who's got their name in the hat has a chance of being chosen to be part of those 4 teams of 3. And then everybody else will essentially just go onto a reserve list, a waiting list. So the modeling challenge is set up something that's dynamic, that can look at that list of names and then create the teams of 4 with 3 people in them and create this reserve list. And then the idea is like if more people, let's say, joined the company or put their name in the hat is probably more realistic, then that reserve list would grow. But the number of people in the teams, the 4 teams of 3 wouldn't grow. But it could change. This is going to be like a random name allocator and something that structures the names into 4 teams of 3 in a reserve list. All right, clear? There we are. There's the list of names. And here's kind of what we want. We want something that's going to create dynamically 4 teams of 3 and a reserve list that can increase. And I'm almost only going to use dynamic arrays, all right? So I'm going to break this down into all of the component parts. Step 1, I'm going to create a random list of numbers. And I'm going to use that. I'm going to use the list of names that I've got, which you will see I've set up as an Excel table, which is actually really important when we get into this. But what has that done? That's essentially creating a random list of numbers, and the number of numbers will be the number of names that I've got in this list here, because counter is always going to return the number of names I've got in that list dynamically because we're using structured referencing. Next, I'm going to sort by. So sort by, of course, now I'm doing this recorded and live. I'll probably muck it up at least twice. So what do I want to do? I want to sort my list of names. Again, as soon as I kind of highlight the whole list there, because this is an Excel table, for those of you that aren't familiar with this, the way that the formula looks will change, and suddenly you've got this structured referencing, this reference to the table name and the field in that table. In this instance, there's only one field, so it's TBL names members. So I want to sort my names by my list of random numbers. Now, what's that going to give me? That's going to give me a list of names that, if I keep hitting F9, will randomly change as those random numbers in column C change. All right, step one, I have a dynamic list of names that can kind of be kind of equivalent to the random selection. Next step, I want to essentially take that sorted list of names and I want to compartmentalize it into columns of 3. So what am I going to do? I'm going to do wrap cols. The vector is that dynamic list. The count is going to be 3. I only want 3 names per column in this list. But you can see something that we've got at the end there. What is this? We've got an NA. So we've got that structure of the array that's got to be fixed by the number of columns it needs, but there aren't enough names to fill up that last spot. We can deal with that. Pad with, we're going to say pad with nothing. So now that last spot where there is a missing name is blank. If I were to add Bob to this list, I'll change the names, but you can see that that last slot has been filled. Let's get rid of Bob. Okay, so we've got this dynamic list of names that is compartmentalizing the list into batches of 3, but we only want the first 4, so we can use take, which is literally going to say, like, all right, give me an array of data, and then tell me how many of the rows or the columns you want to take. And you can actually do this either from the start or the end. I want to use the columns feature, and I want the first 4 columns. That is going to take the first 4 columns from my array, and it's going to get rid of everything else. It's not the only thing I need. I also want everything else. I want that remaining group of names that is beyond the first 4. So I'm going to take the original list. This time I'm going to drop the first 4 columns, and that's just going to give me the remainder. And again, that's dynamic. So if my list gets added to by quite a lot of names, that drop feature is going to make sure that we always capture all of the new names coming in. So step 6, we're going to merge the remaining group into one list. So that step 5, where I've got my drop getting rid of the first 4, leaving me with the remainder, currently that's going to keep spreading over multiple columns. And actually what I want is, I think it's, am I going to remember this right? I think it's H stack. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's 2col. This is the only trouble with all of these new dynamic arrays, is actually remember what on earth you do with them. So 2col will take an array of data and put it in a column. The only challenge I've got here, again, is that I've got this space, because this array is of a particular structure. There aren't enough names to fill up the array. It's not too bad, but actually I kind of want to get rid of that space, so I can filter that out. Filter by the array, and we'll say now you always have to, so let's do this by equals the array is not blank. So we're going to filter it down, give me the results of everything that isn't blank. There we go. That's got rid of the blank cell at the end there. And then the last step, step 8, we're going to combine the first 4 and the remaining bit. So hstack allows us to stack our arrays horizontally. What do we want to stack? We want to stack the first 4, and then we want to stack that remaining block at the end. And it's nearly done, but yet again, we've got some NA. So again, we've got a structure where the largest array in terms of the the rows is here. This array here is stretching over 5 rows. That works perfectly for that remaining sort of waiting list block. But in the first 4, we don't have 5 rows of data, so we're getting these NAs in return. So what I can do is wrap this in an if NA, then return nothing. All right, and there we go. So that should be a completely dynamic list. If I now add Bob back in, now bear in mind these numbers are going to change every time I add them to the list. Let's add John. Let's add Suzanne. You can see every time it's feeding through all these steps. The first 4 are just the teams of 3 people, and that waiting list keeps getting bigger and bigger. Let me take off those added names. And then just to whet your appetites, I guess, for some people that like this kind of crazy stuff, you could do it all in one go. So I won't talk through this. You can have a look if you want. If you like the idea of getting into kind of let and lambda territory, then here you go. This is the whole thing solved in one cell using let. So we're defining these kind of variables R, A, and B. And then from there, we will kind of have a final calculation that uses those variable names and produces the output. The only thing I've just noticed, which I will fix before I share this model, is that I'm actually not referencing the table name. It's just referencing the cell references. So I will fix that. That should be referencing the table field there. But there you go. Friday challenge for you. Have a go. Download the workbook, see if you can follow it, and if you've got any better solutions, by the way, you're very, very welcome to share them. This is probably one of many, many ways you could solve this problem. Hope you enjoy it. Have a good weekend. See you next week.